Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday in the doldrums of February. Hope everybody in the Northeast is doing okay after the blizzard. Just waiting for my collaborator here, Jenn White of Bright Futures Families. Did we do it? Ooh, there was a delay, an extra delay there. I was like, did I screw it up? Episode 7, did I screw it up?
No, I felt like I was really slow this time too. I was like, what is going on? We're between us. We're just not on it this time.
Post blizzard internet connections, or I don't know.
I not even post blizzard for us. I don't know if it did for you, but it snowed again today for us. So
We got a dusting. It didn't really change anything over here.
it,
Did
we
you
got
did you get real snow?
we got enough that it was like our local schools sent kids to school, and it was substantially dangerous. And my husband teaches, and his school was canceled. And Ash still is not back to college. Actually, still will not be back
Yes.
to college again tomorrow because they are still not doing school tomorrow, even in Rhode Island.
Yes. Well, our thoughts are with folks in Rhode Island, Cape Cod
The Cape,
especially.
Long
Yeah.
Island. I was going to say, even
Yeah. Along the
anywhere that was
Sound, coastal
coastal.
Connecticut, Long Island.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're sitting pretty in the city,
Yeah,
but it's all relative.
exactly, exactly. It's going to be 50 on Saturday. So
You know? It's just the way the world is these days. All
exactly.
right. We are
Okay.
here, episode 7, talking to kids about surrogacy, telling origin stories, and explaining journeys.
Yeah.
Okay. Which side do we want to start on? Because I feel like, just to frame it up, like
Yeah.
both surrogates and intended parents have conversations with children that they need to have.
Yep.
They need to explain this. They're explaining it from a different vantage point, but a lot of the sort of main task of helping children understand what most adults can't really wrap their heads around. That's
Yeah.
the fundamental challenge.
I mean they are very unique and different perspectives. And I mean I really I'm not bothered either way which one we start with. I mean we each kind of come from to this from a different perspective ourselves, which I think is why it's
Yeah.
kind of always a nice conversation between us. Like so like my instinct always is to talk about like how to talk to kids as an intended parent side,
Mhm.
just because that's more like my kind of bent, having gone through all my own fertility challenges and things like that.
Yeah.
So do you want to start? I mean, since I spoke up, do you want to start there?
Well, I was going to say that maybe we should start with the surrogate perspective just to
That's
make
fair.
sure that we don't get wrapped up in,
That's fair. Are you
what.
saying I talk too much? Is that what you're saying? Come on. You can
No,
say it. You can
not
say
at
it.
all. But I feel like we almost like it's a rite of passage that somebody holds up the kangaroo pouch
I,
and
I was like,
or the
I
Billy
have all.
Pine
I mean, really, like, how
koala.
many books do we each have?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Kim Bergman. Shout out to the P that was me.
You
I've
have
got all
see.
sorts of.
I have all of the I'm very Ferris, which are all IVF related,
Mhm.
and every family is a tree, and like so. I
Yep.
have I have my perspective books.
Yes. Um, the point being, for those that are not aware, there's a whole cottage industry of books geared at kids,
Yep.
again, for intended parents or for surrogates to use. But for surrogates, simple metaphors that just sort of help, like, explain, okay, mommy has this thing and then it's going to go back, and what does that make her? And it maybe makes her a kangaroo that has a pouch that can carry somebody else's joey, and then the joey goes back to the hopsalots.
Right.
It could be a koala, similar idea. It could be, I think the common words that people use are like oven, right? Like their bun my oven, or
Yeah.
like I'm an extreme babysitter, anything that sort of helps children understand, like, this was not my thing. It was given to me to take care of and then give back is sort of the like most basic concept that I think surrogates help like littles try to understand.
And I think generally also kids are super understanding, right? Anything that you introduce to them, they're going to get it, right? Pretty quickly, as long as you use real language with them. And that's always my point is like, use real language. It really matters. Like, the kids are not stupid, like they get it.
Yeah.
But it's a difference in perspective when you're talking to the kids of surrogates because this is their mom, right? There is an
Yeah.
expectation that if mom is pregnant, especially if it's an one of their older children, they saw mom carry and bring a sibling home,
Yeah.
they already have a mental mechanism as to how it works when mom is pregnant, right? Mom goes to the hospital, she brings the baby home. Well, in this case, she's not going to. And so that's why a lot of these books are super useful and a lot of that language. And I will
Mhm.
also say it's also really useful in talking to nosy adults too. Like
Yeah.
a lot of that same stuff. Like I'm extreme babysitting and like, because people are nosy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to talk about like the some of the pros that I think get lost about like what is the effect on surrogates kids of watching their mom go through this because there's
Yeah,
some really fantastic positives that I feel like some people are really attuned to in signing up for surrogacy and they'll say that other times it's like a added benefit that they didn't really realize at the beginning. But one of the cons and one of the reasons you really need to use good language with your kids is that, like, I heard this story of a kid that in school was basically like, oh, our mom had a baby and gave it to some guys. And
right.
then the teacher was like, what now? And
Yeah,
that like
what do
triggered a
you
whole
mean?
thing, right? So like
Yeah,
making sure that your kids are sort of armed to also like if you've been visibly pregnant in the drop off line at school for months and months and now they don't have a little brother or sister, like
right,
they may need to be able to explain that to their first grade teacher
right.
if you
Not
didn't
just
clue her
mommy's
in.
giving this one away. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean the
Um,
pros though, I will say like I have and one of the she works for me now, but when she first came to us, she actually was a surrogate for us. And the biggest thing, and she has said this over and over and over again, is she said, I've always wanted to show my kids how to be the good in the world. And she
yeah,
said, this is one of those ways.
yeah,
And she's like, my kids get it. She said they really like, and again, now she works for me, so I get the advantage of hearing how it has affected her kids over the
yeah,
years. But she's like they get it, like that this is a bigger gift than anybody can ever give in any other
yeah.
way. And
What?
so your kids really are profoundly affected by watching you take this action as a parent.
Right. I mean, we all know as parents that our kids are watching us in good times and bad, and
Mhm.
that the best way to raise good humans is to model that. And what better way to model service and the most amazing act of generosity than to do this? I also think, and I a shout out to my co-director Yesenia, who I feel like with her kids who were 5 and 8 when she was first a surrogate, are now 11 and 14 on her third journey. They geeked out on the science of it all. Like they were old enough to like understand the IVF process and to
Right.
learn like from the science aspect of this. And so I think if you
Mhm.
have slightly older kids, like that is another like just amazing thing that like most kids, even in sex ed, even in high school, are not going to understand. And now your kids understand exactly where how babies are made in all sorts of ways. Like it's
Which
a biology lesson.
And I think it's a really good and natural thing. I mean, this goes to why, like, the difference I think when you're talking to intended parents, like in kids of like born via surrogacy or donation, and donation as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that like language really matters because kids are soaking up and learning it from the very start. So it's like that's why like. Very different perspective, right? When you're as a parent, you have the advantage of being able to have this conversation before your kid ever even knows. And I would say like, and my like unsolicited advice for anybody going through this is like start practicing before your kid understands anything you
Yeah.
say, because it is much easier. Like it can be really hard to say words out loud the first time, or phrases, or explain something. But the more times you practice it, and if you're doing it under the low pressure situation of this is my brand new newborn in my
Yeah.
arms, and I'm going to tell you very much about that you were conceived via donor, and you know the a surrogate, an amazing woman helped carry you, and this is the like you've practiced now. And then you just keep saying it over and over and over again. It becomes part of their story. And it's not, there's no shame to it. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that's you never want anybody to feel shamed or stigmatized by their origin story. You know, it is a beautiful story. And if you hide it, then somebody thinks that there's a reason it's being hidden. Even if it's just that you just don't know how to say the words, that no, say the words, always say the words.
Yeah. And I think there's different versions of it too. There's the like deeply personal, like, here is a picture of your surrogate pregnant with you that is now in the baby book we've created, right? Because a
Right.
lot of people like to chart out at least that first year of life, at least for the first kid. Hopefully they
I,
stick with it for future
I'm
children, but at least.
I only had one, and I'm not really sure that I had a baby book either. So,
Yeah, I know. As the youngest of three, I'm pretty sure by the time it got to me, they were like, all right, we took one photo in his first year of life. We did our job.
right.
And even with two kids, like there was definitely a little bit of a drop off. Sorry, Annie. But yeah, I mean, you can lay that out, like the specific story. And I actually, I know somebody who's been through this process that had like a, 50-page PDF with all sorts of things, like nice and laid out that the kid will always have in perpetuity with like
That's
just chock
amazing.
full of their reflections. And that is amazing. There's also like the whole genre of books to help kids conceptualize this as well.
Mhm.
And some of my favorites, I just feel like I have so many books, I might as well share them with people. I really like some of the just generic ones about like families coming in all shapes and sizes.
Those are amazing always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like this all kinds of families has my family is reflected by some chickens that are two dads, and there's single moms, there's step parents, there's grandparents raising kids, there's cousins.
Yep.
It's just a great book that sort of covers all sorts of ways that families are built. But then, do you like this one? What makes a baby?
Oh, I don't think I have that one on my
I,
shelf.
it's a little bit for older kids, but I would
Okay.
say if there was one book that I recommend to intended parents the most, it's this,
Okay.
because it's just the most straightforward, like you need sperm and egg and uterus, and let's just use gender neutral
Right.
language, and it encompasses donors, it encompasses all sorts of families, like it's just like straight up biology in the simplest and clearest way. And I honestly think surrogate, intended parent, whoever, like this book can give you the words to explain like how your kids came to be
Right.
in whatever way that happened. It's
Yeah.
going to be covered by this very straightforward, gender neutral, just description.
I think that's amazing. That one's gonna go on my shelf very soon. I have a feeling.
It's the best.
I mean, I have a lot of like the also that don't necessarily deal with surrogacy, like that, like so, like I'm very Ferris. Watch, I'm very Ferris IVF, like right, like families. Even if you're not going through surrogacy or doing like, there
Hmm.
are a lot of different ways, and still a lot of parents still really want to find ways to come up with that language. And I mean, similar to what you're like, every family is a tree. You know, like okay, like there are also other ways like fostering and adopting and like families. I mean, you talked about like family members taking care of people, kinship, things like that. Like there are so many ways that families are made, and I mean, all of them are love, right? Like
Yeah.
that's all. That's the base of it, right? We have to just explain love.
Yeah. Um, so in this process, like how do I guess we as professionals make sure that people are armed with the language that they need, like on both sides to discuss this with their kids and make sure that just like the family understands,
Mhm.
like in really simple ways.
I mean, I think we keep a recommended, book list, obviously, for everybody to make sure that everybody has a ton of resources to find out there. I think we actually send at least one copy of one of the books, I cannot remember which one, to all of our surrogates when they're starting off, just so that they have
Yeah.
at least a start on their library to talk with their kids. I do want to just throw in there really quickly, like, I understand that for some cultures, they can't talk about surrogacy. And so I don't want our like talking about like it's really important to talk about this early and often. I don't want any intended parents to feel shame if culturally that it is stigmatized or not
Yeah.
okay for them to have that conversation. Like, but I do think generally in any case that you can, it is better for the mental health in the long term for the kids. But please do not take our enthusiasm about this as any kind of cultural shaming, because there are several cultures out there that they they have to explore surrogacy if they are going through infertility, but they they can't. They just can't talk to their families or to their kids about it. So no shame, no shade against anybody who is not able to have that conversation. But so sorry, back to the actual the
Yeah.
actual
No.
there. Um,
Important disclaimer.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I mean, besides books, like I always think it's really important, like when you're going through your mental health consult, talk to that mental health professional. They have amazing practice, coming up, helping people come up with ways to have these conversations that are really individualized to each family, each situation, each person's comfort level with language. Like we, as professionals in this, we are so used to saying all of the correct terminology words that like I don't even think about it anymore. Like I say everything and people will be like they'll just go and I'm like yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a word,
I
right? But
mean, there's
for
a
a lot of
uterus
people,
behind me and a sperm on my desk. So
right, right. I mean, I won't even show you the front of my laptop. Like when I travel, I just whip it out and I'm like, wow, this is probably a little embarrassing. That's okay though. But like we're used to it because we've used that language so much. And for a lot of people, talking to that mental health professional or even talking to a surrogacy program, like that's the first time that they're learning to experiment with saying some of these words out loud. And a lot of families come from a place where language is taboo, right? Like you're not allowed to say any of these words. And so how, if you've grown up in your own family culture that discourages use of honest language,
yeah.
how do you train yourself to use honest language with your kids? And so like mental health professionals are a great way to do that. I know any good surrogacy program out there, if a parent reached out and said like, I just need help, can I just like practice running through this with you? Like 100%. We
Yeah.
all would be more than happy to be, kind of that, just like listen and be like, here, let me give you some suggestions, other ways you might say that, things like that. How do you suggest and how do you address that?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of it is that we're starting down that path just by explaining gestational surrogacy to
Mhm.
people in our lives, right? Like surrogates
Right,
so quickly have to like explain to their family, it is not my egg,
right,
right? And intended parents have to be like, no, she's not the mother. Like
right.
whatever definition of mother you're using, like genetic or not, like she's very clearly not the
Not.
mother to
Yep.
this child. And so that immediately just like dispelling certain myths like starts us down the path. Then you mentioned mental health professionals, like if you're the recipient of donor eggs or donor sperm or both, or donated embryos, like there should be a psychoeducational consult to help
Mhm.
intended parents understand what it means to raise donor conceived children and how to talk about that.
Yep.
Sometimes things slip through the cracks. I recently had clients that I sent for a surrogacy related psychoeducational consult that seemed to have never really received good psych counseling as the recipient of donor
Mhm.
gametes because I was
Wow.
not involved in that process. This was all
Right.
before they came to me.
Yep.
And I actually tipped off the psychologist we sent them to, being like, they seem to have not had any counseling. Please, like,
Please help with
expound on
this.
this. And
Yeah.
then she followed up with the fertility clinic to be like, you should be doing this. And so it's a whole thing. but also the surrogacy, while there's an evaluation, the clinical interview with the surrogate, like if to the extent friends and family come up and kids and have you talk to your kids, like mental health professionals can help arm surrogates with language there, and then same thing on the intended parent side. So I think I'm preaching to the choir and talking to you about this,
That's
but
all right.
obviously we both believe mental health professionals are worth their weight in gold in this space. And
Yep.
this extends beyond just making sure that the match works or that, people have informed consent about implications in doing this. It's also about the children
Mhm.
and making sure that, intended parents are making the best possible decisions about how to explain their kids' origin stories to them, and the same thing for the surrogates.
Yep.
So yeah, but we send the kangaroo pouch typically. Spoiler alert to any like surrogates with us that are watching. We usually send that when they start, and we usually send what makes a baby to the intended parents at the end
I love
to
it.
help them on the way as well.
I'll say anybody who needs small trivia, the woman who wrote The Very Kind Koala used to be the mental health professional at CCRM Colorado. So
Mhm.
she's
There's
still
another plug for her right here.
exactly. She's still out in practicing in Colorado. She's just not part of that group anymore. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's, so
This is also hers, Kim Kluger Bell.
yep, yep.
And yes, and then there's also ones that there's a bunch of series. This is the Happy Together series where there are different versions based
Mhm.
on your specific family. So this
Right.
is just generic surrogacy. This is two dads with egg donation and surrogacy, and there's many iterations beyond that. So there's a lot of resources out there, is the point.
There
You're
are.
not doing this alone.
And those that are very targeted like that are really helpful because it is really nice for people to see themselves, right? Is that because representation really matters, like so if you're suddenly saying, okay, I'm going to show you this book, but it is a mom and a dad, and you're like, and your kid is like, where are the two dads? I don't understand. I don't have that. That doesn't work for my understanding of this world. Like that representation is huge. So like finding the right book
Yep.
is really helpful. There are also, and we didn't touch this, but there are also some books that are geared very well for dealing with like secondary infertility. So if parents already have kids, so I think that the Sophia's Broken Crayons are a really good one to talk about
Yep.
like why are we having to do this? Like, why does somebody have to help in this regard? And so there's a lot of for every possible iteration out there. People sometimes say like, no, I didn't even know these things existed. They're really hard to find. There's a lot of them. And I think any of us out there would be more than happy to help direct towards any number of those resources. There are also tons of grown-up books, tons of grown-up books to help people
I
understand
honestly,
these
I feel
things.
like I don't know the grown-up books as well as the kids' books, so I might have to ping you for a list of the good grown-up books.
I
But
have a giant shelf of I think, small plug for our podcast, right? Like that, like we talk to a lot of people who write a lot of these books, and it's a lot easier for us to have a sustained full podcast episode conversation with people who wrote an adult book because there's a little more to talk about in them. So obviously, like generally I have the books because we've interviewed them, but like there are so many resources out there for
and
so many people.
I will plug your podcast because you didn't say the name. So for those tuning in, it's I Want to Put a Baby in You is the
Mhm.
fantastically named podcast that Jen has with her sister Ellen.
Yeah. Jarret's been a guest on it before, so a great episode with us. Yeah. So I say, like, what other language do we want to talk about and talk? I know we were supposed to talk about kids. I think that like, I,
Do you have any good stories? I told you mine about our mom had a baby and gave it to some guys. Do you have any good stories of like, lost in translation surrogacy with
Mine are
kids?
all substantially similar, all on the same theme. A lot of time I get a lot more of the adults of the like, oh, when's your wife due? Oh, it's not mine. Like
Yep.
those kind of things. And then she'll turn around and go, it's not mine either. And,
I know. It's
which
great.
is just more like deflecting with humor in those
Yep.
situations. I did. you kind of like talked on like family members and things like that, and it did make me want to say like there's a reason why a lot of programs ask like, do you have support around you? Because the support around you, to like the language of talking to people around you, because if they're gonna say surrogacy is the worst and
Yeah.
like and all that stuff, like it's gonna make your journey miserable too. So like having that support and having the ability to talk openly and have these great
Yeah.
conversations with people who are your support around you is also immensely important.
Yes, and support not just for what you are doing, but also in some respects who you're doing it for as a
Correct.
surrogate. And so, we have to have conversations with surrogates frequently about, okay, well, you may be totally open to caring for the LGBTQ community. Is that going to affect in any way how people show up for you emotionally, logistically in your life? Is it going to create an additional burden? It does nobody any good to have a surrogate who's stressed out because of family strife while going through this, because it's already a really heavy thing to be a surrogate. So,
Exactly. We've
yeah,
definitely had surrogates who said, I can't, I just can't. I love the LGBTQ community, but I can't because my family wouldn't support.
yeah,
Um, and it's also, and I know people think it's silly sometimes the questions we ask, but sometimes it's why we ask about things like, hey, what religion are you? And it's not
hmm,
that, we're not trying to pry, we're not trying to get into anybody's religion, but we just want to make sure that there's not going to be a conflict
yeah,
between your religious beliefs and either surrogacy, right? Because some religions have pretty strong feelings about surrogacy in general, and some also
sure,
have big, strong feelings about the LGBTQ community. And so we really want to make sure that your greater community too, because we don't want to ever take away from your support systems, right? Like if your religious community is who shows up for you and who takes care of you when things are rough, we don't want to put in a position where you're going through a rough time and then they're giving you a harder time in that time period.
yeah. And that's, it can absolutely go the other way. And there are so many very supportive religious
Yes.
communities that really
Oh,
do show up
100%.
for our surrogates, like
Yes.
in times like that. So it's, certainly not always a negative thing for a
No, and I feel
surrogate
like
to
I'm
be.
picking. I feel like I'm
No,
picking
no,
on the
no.
negative on that, but it's
It's
more that sometimes you get the, but
for
why? I don't
sure.
understand why you're pushing back on this, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just because I need to make sure, right? Like
No,
that's
of
all it
course. I
is.
mean, I feel like every time we get a new pope, there's a new statement, and we have to, worry a little bit about,
This current one likes to make a lot of statements, so it's
you know what? He's American, so.
right. You've got to talk a lot. Oh,
is that our note to conclude on? I feel
I
like.
think so. I think we've talked too much. I don't know. So excellent. What is it? Do we have a topic for next time, or have we not gotten there yet?
Ooh, you're putting me on
Mm.
the
I
spot.
know we may not have planned out that far. We may have to like
I
make
think
somebody.
we do, but it's buried somewhere in my
Okay,
email. But we
excellent.
will,
People
the
will
the masses who are joining,
the
we
people
will
will
let
watch
you
the
all
social
know.
media for our next topic is what it comes down to. So yeah.
Yes.
So
But if you need any book recommendations, we are chock full. So
I
DM us, email us,
we have so
whatever.
many, all of
So
us. Yes, perfect, excellent. Thank you so much. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
great to see you. Bye.
All right,
Stay safe and
bye.
warm.
Thank you. You too.